So, coming into the second week of June, we are going to be having a severe weather outbreak across the plains and as well as the northern plains going into the Midwest. And in today's video, we're going to be talking just about that for the northern portion of the US and also as well as southern Canada. So, for today, the SPC has issued a enhanced risk of severe weather for the northern plains, mostly for North Dakota and a little bit of South Dakota and Montana. But mostly, I'm going to find this to be a North Dakota problem. Biggest risk for this day is going to be our wind risk, which we can see down here. We are at a 30% chance of wind within 25 miles of a point, with a conditional 2 risk for very western North Dakota and very extreme eastern Montana. So, with a conditional risk 2, that could mean that we also do have a conditional 1, but conditional 2 is basically worse than a conditional 1, which means that we could have damaging winds up to 90 miles an hour possible with this. So we are going to have to be keeping an eye on that. For the hail risk, which is our next risk, we have a 15%. Again, for the Dakotas and as well as southeastern Montana and northeastern Wyoming. We do have a conditional 1 risk with that too, so large hail is very possible with this as well. Again, the conditional risk, however, I would say would mostly be, again, a Western Dakota's problem for the most part. For the tornado risk, I have a percent down here in Missouri, around the four corners of Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. We also do have a 2%, so an isolated possible tornado chance for the Dakotas as well. The tornado risk will be much of a bigger problem for Manitoba, southwestern Manitoba, and southeastern Saskatchewan. I don't have the data on here from the ECCC, but basically the tornado risk for southern Canada is going to be worse than the US for today, which is honestly something that we rarely do see. So this is possibly a once in a decade event that is occurring for any sort of severe weather outbreak. For tomorrow, June 8th, 2026, we have a slight risk of severe weather for really just areas around the borders of Nebraska and Colorado. This isn't going to be a big severe weather day. In fact, I would even consider this maybe just a mini break or a little break from severe weather from the northern plains. We'll get to that in a little bit. But we can see that for this day, our biggest risk is going to be the hail threat, which is with a 15 in category 1 with the dotted line. So 15 miles within 25 miles of a location point in the yellow. Really, again, along the Nebraska and Colorado border is going to be the worst of that. The wind, we have a 15% chance, also along the Colorado-Nebraska border. And then for the tornado threat, we just have a 2% along the Colorado and Nebraska border. So for this day, for tomorrow, June 8th, I wouldn't call it necessarily a problematic day. So it's not going to be as bad as the other days, but it could still be bad in isolated areas. For June 9th, 2026, here is where things could really change. We have an enhanced risk of severe weather up here for central and eastern North Dakota, northwestern Minnesota, and northern South Dakota. This is where it could get to a very big problem for not only the northern plains, but also the southern plains of Canada as well. They don't have a tornado risk, or they haven't put out the tornado risk, hail risk, or wind threat, but they will come out with that tomorrow. And I will most likely be able to make a short at least about this. So we are gonna be keeping coverage of this up here in the northern plains. So make sure you guys do make sure notifications on, even subscribe to let you know when the latest video releases. And we have a probability outlook day 4 of a 30%, which means that at least for day 4, most likely there will be an enhanced risk for areas along the Wisconsin and Minnesota border. A little bit of Iowa too is in this orange, which is the 30% chance. So 30% chance of severe weather happening within 25 miles of a location. And then we have a large 15% that extends down from Ontario to northern Missouri. And then Thursday, June 11th, we have a slight risk of severe weather for probability extending anywhere from Missouri to Michigan. Next thing that I'm going to be talking about, we're going to be getting to timing here for severe weather in just a minute or two, but for today, June 7th, 2026, we have a moderate risk of flooding slash flash flooding for northern portions of Alabama, which does include Huntsville, Alabama. And we could have possibly severe flooding problems happening for northern Alabama. We also have a very large 15% that extends from Dixie Alley to the Ozarks, into the Midwest, even into some portions of the Ohio Valley. So we could have a substantial flooding threat for today, possibly, in possibly at least a dozen states. Tomorrow, June 8th, 2026, we just have a slight risk, which is a 15% chance within 25 miles of a point for flooding slash flash flooding. Again, this will at least include a dozen states, but this is going to be a problem for the Ohio River Valley, the Tennessee Valley, even into the mid-Mississippi Valley. The 18Z model run for the HRRR, so this is a 48-hour model run, but as we could see, is that occurring over the evening, I do have to remember that we are in the central and also mountain time zones, but really for the evening that I'm going to say for now is that we could have quite a bit of storms starting to fire up in eastern Montana and North Dakota. As we continue through late evening into overnight, we're going to be having straight line winds moving through North Dakota and South Dakota. So mostly damaging winds are going to be a main problem with this. However, we can have isolated, I wouldn't even call it isolated, but scattered hail events and isolated tornadoes across the Dakotas and Montana. Most of the tornado problem is going to be up here in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And I will be covering those in just a minute here, but as this moves into tomorrow morning, this line of storms will be already reaching the eastern side of the Dakotas, moving into Minnesota, and that's where we could see basically some possible more pop-up showers and also heavy rainfall happening into Minnesota. Now, unfortunately, the ARRR model does not seem to have a zoom in, a regional feature for Canada, but if you do zoom in up here in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, you can see these storms already rolling through the two provinces. Moving on through, basically, this will be a time where we'll have straight line winds mostly, but I think the hail and tornado threat will be like a evening problem, and then it'll mostly turn into damaging winds during the night as it rolls through Manitoba. It does also reach into Minnesota and some parts of Ontario, but once it passes the Dakotas and Manitoba, moving into Minnesota and Ontario, it'll turn more likely into a heavy rainfall threat, possibly with isolated winds or hail possible with this. The 6 to 10 day temperature outlook probability, so for the next week, most likely areas in the central US are going to be below average for temperatures going into the next week or so. And the West Coast and East Coast most likely are going to be experiencing warmer than average temperatures for the most part. And headed on for the next week to 2 weeks, most likely the Climate Prediction Center has kept the central US still in a cool matter. However, we do see that the cooling does expand a little bit to the east as well. So we could see possibly near normal average temperatures for places in like the Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley, while still both coasts are going to be likely above average for temperatures. For precipitation over the next week or so, we are going to be having most likely above average precipitation for the central and eastern US, below than average precipitation for the West Coast states, really, I would say for the Pacific Northwest. Then precipitation over the next first and second week, most likely again, central to eastern U.S. will be a little bit slightly above average rainfall, and the West Coast could possibly be just a tiny bit below average for precipitation. We're going to be looking into today's video is the 7-day projected rainfall. As you can see, areas here in southern Missouri and as well as northern Alabama could be seeing the most amount of rainfall, with isolated amounts possibly reaching up to 6 inches possible. Even going into 48 hours, some areas still in southern Missouri and northern Alabama, like even areas in northern Alabama, could still reach up to 6 inches for literally over a day or two. Areas in southern Missouri may not be up to 6 inches. That's going to be most likely could be up to 4 inches possible, but we are going to be keeping an eye on northern Alabama. And if you guys live in northern Alabama, take precautions about flooding, because flooding could definitely be a problem in the hills of Alabama for the most part. If you guys like to see a new hunt weather video, make sure you guys like, share this with other people. If you do like this content, considering subscribing, as it does help grow this channel and helps feature other people into seeing weather events like this, because weather events could cost someone's life without them actually even knowing any of it. So make sure that if you do like this stuff, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it to friends, family, or other people that you do know. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.